Welcome on in to the second recording of this episode. There's a lost episode that nobody will ever get to hear. It was glorious.
It's part of the bloopers.
But my name is Tyler Louder. He is Aaron Ben, and this is Second and Short. And we are back for our second episode this week. We just got done talking about Stephon Diggs and his move to the Buffalo Bills. And if you want to hear our breakdown on that, click this little icon at the very top right corner, and you can see all the other episodes we've had on the new editions. If you guys like our content, click the subscribe button down there. But you know what? Enough of that out of the way. Smash that like button. You know, whatever else you guys say. Let's talk about somebody in the NFC. Let's shift gears. Let's move over. And based on, I don't even know why I lead these in so slow, because people click on the thumbnail and like read the description.
Yeah, you're not building any suspense here or anything.
I try so hard, but it's like a package that isn't even wrapped. And I'm like, what is it?
What could it be?
But anyways, let's talk about Trent Williams. And this is, for you San Francisco 49ers out there, this is who we think is the biggest and best and brightest addition from the 2020 free offseason. Trades, free agents, anything but draft. This is the biggest impact. So, you know, let's just dive in. Let's hit the background on him. Trent Williams was drafted, he was the 4th overall pick back in 2010. He came out of Oklahoma, and by 2011, he was already named a captain. And that's essentially what happened is he was drafted really high, and he was looked at as a guy that's going to be the future. And then they were like, oh shit, he is the future. All right, here you go, man. You're the captain for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I mean, he earned it with how he played. By 2015, he had signed a $66 million extension, made 7 straight Pro Bowls from 2012 to 2018, as well as being a second-team All-Pro in 2015. Yeah, I will say that like the main drawback to his career has been his availability, because he has had a lot of injuries, a lot of suspensions, and he's only started all 16 games twice in his career. So they say the best ability is availability, and that seems to be a problem with him.
Yeah, and a lot of these injuries haven't actually been severe. I mean, all injuries are severe in some way or another, but I mean, he suffered a concussion in like his 4th season. He also had a thigh injury that kind of limited him, but didn't really take him out too long. He was placed on the IR towards the end of the season with a knee injury in 2017, which he actually suffered during training camp, but still happened to play through 2017, the majority of it. And this just kind of leads into the fact that he played so often on injuries, and although he missed some games, he didn't miss a lot. This just kind of plays into the Washington Redskins and their medical staff, and how a professional franchise can't handle their athletes, their best athlete.
Yeah, I mean, look at what they did with the RG3 in his knee, and that whole situation when he got hurt, and they kept putting him back in the game. It seems to be kind of a pattern for them.
So, I mean, let's take us back. You and I were talking about this, and you brought up something that I don't know how I missed this, I was unaware of it, but talk about the surgery that Trent Williams went through, and then go into depth of what we're talking about happened behind scenes.
So in April 2019, Trent Williams had surgery to remove a cancerous growth from his head. He had noticed this growth back in 2013, but this famed Redskins medical staff said it wasn't anything real serious, and he didn't need to worry about it. The growth turned out to be cancerous and potentially life-threatening. So Trent Williams understandably was upset with how that staff treated him, demanded the trade, and then when they didn't trade him, he held out for that entire 2019 season.
Now, this just blows my mind, because you know how like every time a player says I'm going to hold out, like Facebook and Twitter and at every social media platform, it's just people that are, in my opinion, ignorant and aren't involved in the situation just start bashing these players for not playing because it's a sport, and you should just play your sport and shut up, type things like that. But I mean, this guy's life was in danger, and the Washington Redskins just brushed him off like he was a piece of dust on their floor, and they didn't have a broom at that moment. Like, they just pushed him aside and hoped somebody else would figure it out, and they did. And thankfully they did, because this guy is one of the best offensive tackles in the world. But I mean, on a bigger level, he's just a human being. And after we talked about how they treated RG3, and now you hear all this behind the scenes stuff here, I don't mind him sitting out. Like, good for him. He's out of that team now. He's not playing with the Washington Redskins, and he got traded. What do you think about that? Like, when you first heard that news that the Redskins kind of just like pushed it aside, what was your thought on that?
Well, my thought was first of all, if I'm a player and I'm a free agent looking for kind of like a new team, big contract, I'm not going to trust the Washington Redskins organization. I just feel like looking at how they've been treated, looking at like how former players have talked about that team, I would not want to sign a contract with them. And if I'm a rookie, and I get drafted by them, I'm kind of nervous about that whole deal.
Well, I mean, Montez Sweat last year came in with an injury. So, like, I'm concerned that maybe he's not getting taken care of properly.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of just this ongoing thing with them, and it's something that they need to take care of. Like, the owner needs to come in and do some firing, get some turnover, and get some new medical staff that can handle their job properly.
Yeah, get these fresh 2020 graduates out in there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move past that. Washington Redskins handled this poorly. They could have, if they would have traded him the moment he wanted out, they probably could have got a first-round pick for him.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But instead, the San Francisco 49ers got to just reap the benefits.
Yeah, the Niners traded for Trent Williams. They traded a 5th-round pick this year and then a 3rd-round pick in 2021. And
chump change.
Later in the episode, we'll talk about exactly what that means, but that's kind of how the trade went down. His cap hit this year sits at $12.5 million, and he's scheduled to be a free agent after 2020.
So I mean, really, it's a short-term deal, and this contract, like $12.5 million for, in my eyes, a top 5 left tackle, like the looked at second most important position when it comes to like longevity and like protecting your assets, and your team. Like, outside the quarterback, the left tackle is prime real estate, and that is nothing.
Yeah, that's about half. Like, that's half of what the top tier players make at that position. So,
well, based on this, we're going to talk more about the projections and everything, which that's where we're going to include his 2020 free agent decision. But let's keep going on this. Let's talk about his fit in San Francisco. Now, Trent Williams is a guy that can dominate in the power run offense. He is a great run blocker. Even better, though, he is a great pass blocker. Now, why he's going to fit in with this team is the reason that he'd fit in with any team. I'm going to give you some numbers, and these just like blew my mind. So from 2015 to 2017, because for some reason I am a terrible stat gatherer, in those 3 years, he only gave up 52 pressures, which was the least in the NFL over that time, which is just, that's insane. 52 pressures in 3 years. Now, let me give you one better. From week 7 of 2016 all the way through to the end of 2018, he allowed 1 sack. 1 sack. I don't even understand how that happens. This guy is amazing. Now, before you enter in, because I'm talking a lot and I'm rambling, I kind of want to talk about a quote that I read. And this is kind of like, a former executive of the 49ers made this quote. It was, I'm not going to say who it is or whatever, because I can't really pronounce, like McLaughlin. Yeah, I said it. He said, Joe Staley is a really good tackle. Don't get me wrong. But he ain't Trent Williams. He hasn't been Trent Williams, and he won't be Trent Williams when Trent Williams' career is over and you compare the two. Like, that just shows how highly he thinks of him. He's not even in the organization. So not only do his stats back it up, his references check out as well. I think he's going to get the starting job.
Yeah, I think he has a solid chance of winning that starting left tackle position. As long as we're talking about Joe Staley, if you know, Niners fans know, most, I think football fans know, he was that stalwart left tackle for the Niners for how long? 13 years, I think. He's a legend in that organization. Williams even said it, like, he knows you can't come in and just replace a legend like Joe Staley. He knows that all he can do is come in and play to the best of his ability. And the best of his ability is insane, like you said. One pressure in almost 3 years. From 2016 to 2018, he was ranked as the number 3 offensive tackle in the league, just like 0.1 points behind Joe Staley. Right now, like you said, Joe Staley's older, he's retired. Williams is fresher, he's 4 years younger, and he had that year off to kind of get his whole body healed and get like all those like little nagging injuries, just kind of work on them and get his body healthy. So, like you said, he feels fresher than ever now as well.
Now let's go back and let's kind of we're not gonna bash on Staley. Like, I'm not saying you're doing that, but like, let's talk about what he brings that Trent Williams won't be able to bring, because I don't want 49er fans to sit here and think that we're just saying like Trent Williams is clearly better in every aspect, because Staley was a leader of that team, a leader of that locker room, but on top of that, he loves this organization so much that the timing of everything is perfect only because of him. If it was a different player, they would have been spiteful maybe or done their own thing and not cared, but he cared about the future of this team. Kind of talk about that like perfect timing that we said.
Yeah, so Staley, he knew he was retiring a while ago, and he told the Niners like a long time ago after the season ended that he's retiring, but he didn't want to do it officially, so they could trade for his replacement at a cheaper price. So the Niners were able to get Williams at a great price instead of first having Staley retire, and then teams know that they desperately need a left tackle, and then Washington could have upped the price. So Staley, with the timing of his retirement, he was also helping out the team. So that's kind of just who he was. He's a real team player, real leader for that Niners team for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. So now let's kind of move into, the impact he's going to have. And not just the impact that he's going to have in this year, but what is the impact of this move, present and future? And I'll let you take it wherever you want to go. I mean, obviously, here, let's get this out of the way. He's replacing Joe Staley. He's the left tackle for the 49ers. We know this. There's not going to be a loss of production at the position. Now, let's talk about later in the year and the future.
Well, first of all, if we're talking about this scheme-wise, the offensive scheme, Williams is an athletic freak. He has proven himself capable of playing in pretty much any system and excelling and being one of the best. But we have to remember he's being reunited with Kyle Shanahan, who was his offensive coordinator in Washington from 2010 to 2013. So Shanahan in San Francisco has kind of implemented the same offensive system that they had in Washington, kind of a wide zone blocking scheme. Williams even said he watched every Niners game from the season. He says he knows their offense inside and out, knew every play that they were calling. And I think he's going to fit in perfectly well in that system. It kind of brings some familiarity, and I think that will really help him excel. If we're talking about like his immediate impact on the team, of course, he's going to this championship contender team. They were in the Super Bowl last year. And like you said, left tackle is such an important position. They don't really have to worry about any drop-off replacing a starter. They don't have to worry about losing like one of their top players.
Well, it's also Jimmy G. Jimmy G is who's going to benefit from this the most, because he's going to be able to stay healthier. He's not going to get hit as much. And if you're going to pay a quarterback as much money as, if you're going to pay a quarterback any amount of money that's ridiculous now. Anything from 20 million up to me is an insane amount of money, and you have to protect that investment. So if this production level stays and he still only gives up, like if he gives up 3 sacks, that's still an amazing season, and that's going to help Jimmy G have more confidence in himself. So by that happening, Jimmy G is going to be able to have more time in the pocket, more likely, because less pressures, less sacks coming, which means he's going to be able to deliver the ball out better to all these options he's got. I mean, all he has is options. And the best part about the 49ers is that all you got to do is give Jimmy G a little bit of time, and all the offensive weapons from Kittle to Samuel to Ayuk, who they just drafted, to their plethora of running backs, those guys all can create the just yards after the catch, like nonstop. So all you got to do is give Jimmy G a little time, and this 49ers team is gonna light up the offensive stats. Like you're gonna see better passing yardage from Jimmy G, in my opinion, just because he's gonna have more time.
I agree with you. I think if you're paying a quarterback that much, you have to also invest in the players to protect him, which they've done, and in the offensive weapons to help him succeed, which they've also done. I want to talk about like the real genius in this move. We said that Williams is a free agent after the 2020 season, and he's going to be due for a $20+ million a year contract, assuming that his play continues at the level we've come to expect from him. Staley retiring frees up about half that amount that Williams is supposed to receive. If the Niners do have room in their cap space and want to sign Williams, they get a top tier left tackle for the next few years, and they paid a fifth round pick and a third round pick for him. Here's where we kind of get into like the genius of the move and how general managers think and use compensatory picks and everything. If they do let him walk, he does get signed for that sort of money, which again, no reason he shouldn't. The Niners receive back a third round compensatory pick in 2022. So basically what it breaks down to is you have one of two options. Either they traded a third and a fifth round pick for one of the top 3 best left tackles in the league, or they traded a fifth round pick for 1 year rental for this team that is supposed to be returning to the Super Bowl next year. So this move kind of demonstrates that they feel that they have the ability and the personnel to win now, but they're also leaving themselves that flexibility in the future, whether they want to sign him or let him go. So I really like this move by General Manager John Lynch, and I think it really shows like a lot of savvy of how the cap works, how compensatory picks work, and just kind of a lot of planning for the future.
The blueprint is there. The New England Patriots have been doing this for years. Like they don't care if you dominate for them. Outside of like their top like 5 prized possessions, everybody's expendable because eventually they're going to get a draft pick back. And the 49ers are a very smart franchise, and in my opinion, he's going to get over 20 million. Or just 20 million or anything, because realistically, if he signs an $18 million contract, he's still making more money than he is this year. And I think the fact that he's going to be playing with like a winning culture, which is like, I don't know, it's weird to say that, but like just like currently they have been riding a high and they have all these pieces in place to make it back to Super Bowl. The only thing standing in their way is themselves. Really, that's all it is. But this 49ers team last year was second in points, second in rushing yards per game, and 13th in passing yards per game. My prediction right here is that they are again going to be the best offensive team in the NFC. They are going to push for closer to 400 total yards per game, like the Baltimore Ravens. And what I think is going to happen is I think the points in the rush are going to stay in that top 3 area, but I think the passing yards per game, as I already kind of predicted there before, is going to move closer to that top 5. Like they're going to sit around 6, 7, and it's all just going to be because of Trent Williams. It's insane to think that like one guy can have this big of an impact. But I mean, realistically, all they got to do is throw for an extra like 30 yards a game and they can move into the top like 7.
For me, I'm going to talk more about like his play personally. I think there's no reason he doesn't pick up where he left off back before the holdout. I think he'll still be an elite top 2, top 3 left tackle in the league. I kind of disagree in terms of the offensive production. I'm not as big a fan of Jimmy G. I don't think he's worth the contract they gave him. But I think he's still a decent, like, above average starter. Niners, they should be a contender again this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the Super Bowl. And in terms of re-signing him, it entirely depends on how he performs this year and the cap moves that they make next year, whether they want to make room for him or not. That's really going to just depend on how he plays. Because I think if he plays at the level we expect, I think you'd have a hard time justifying not signing him.
Okay, before we get out of here, let's throw out one more insane statistic that we actually didn't just come up with on the spot right now.
I had written this down before.
Months ago, before we even made this podcast. Trent Williams has played 6,117 snaps. In those snaps, he has had a combined 54 penalties. That's it. Which is good for, what percentage is that?
That's not even 1%. That's 0.88%.
That's how many times he draws penalties. That's insane. So not only is he going to give up less pressures than most tackles in the league, he's going to allow less sacks than most tackles in the league. He's not even going to cause penalties for you. The most penalties he's ever had in a season was 10. 10, that's it. And that includes like false starts and everything. So this move right here, and it's obvious what we're going to say. It's a great move for the 49ers. I was furious when this is the move they made because my personal team, the Panthers, could obviously go out and get a tackle, and then they could have easily given up this exact same offer and gotten him to start for them, and they could have kept Trey Turner. Russell Okung's fine, whatever, but I'm just saying there's so many teams out there that I bet are kicking themselves for not offering this to the Washington Redskins. Overall, we love Trent Williams in San Francisco. We'd love him anywhere. But with this offense and where they're going, the direction they have, this talent they have all over the place, this is going to be a scary team again this year.
Yeah, I think there's no reason to expect that he won't be anything less than the top 3 tackle in the league.
As long as his health. That's literally all it is. As long as he's healthy, he's going to make another Pro Bowl, and he has a great chance to make another All-Pro. Simple as that. But that's going to do it for us here on Second and Short. My name is Tyler Lauder. He is the Aaron Ben. Thank you guys for joining us here on our breakdown of Trent Williams. We'll be back on Monday with a brand new video. Spoiler, it's in the AFC West.
Oh, you ruined all the suspense.
Sorry. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and maybe even check out our Twitters. We got our links down there. Give us a like, give us a follow. Aaron's doing some great things as our social media guru, manager, professional. I don't even know what to call you anymore.
Intern, I think, is the correct term.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.